Okay, the second half of Obama's book basically deal with American foreign policy. So I want to go over some of the, I call it tenets, basic tenets of American foreign policy. So from the very beginning of American history, we have America becoming independent and separated from the old world. Okay, always remember this. Old world, Europe. New world, America. Okay, there is an old world and a new world. And America truly enjoyed this separation or isolation from Europe. So much so, the first president of the United States. Okay, is that a problem for the first president of the United States? Everybody knows? Ronald Reagan? No. Who is the first president of the United States? The very first one, the one who so honest telling about the felling of the cherry tree. George Washington. And George Washington said in his farewell address, farewell, bye-bye, you know, after 2 terms, in his address, telling the American people 2 things. Okay? One is do not involve in political parties. And he thought political party is factionalism, dividing the country, no good, which obviously American people do not pay much attention because after that we have the Federalist, Anti-Federalist, you have the political parties. The second warning, he said, is America should never be entangled, involved in European affairs. So that's his warning, saying, you know, you're a young nation, do not get involved in the old world politics. Okay, that's American tradition. Splendid isolation is not the American turn. It's the British turn as well. Great Britain, as a European power, also do not want to involve in continental European affairs. They said we want to have a splendid isolation. Okay, so in Taiwan nowadays, we can also talk about, oh, people say, you know, Taiwan is locking ourselves, 锁国主义. So he said, no, this is called splendid isolation, 光荣孤立. Okay, we don't want to be involved in China, right? But America has that idea of splendid isolation as well. You know, saying we're a young nation, we need to grow and have a new identity. We want to have our own policy. We do not want to be involved. Okay, now, obviously, if you look at the map of the United States, original 13 states, and then continue to expand. Okay, I'll give you one example here. Most of you know here, right? Ohio. Ohio, back in the colonial days, is called the Northwest Territory. Northwest of the 13 states. Okay, so this is American at the time, and America relatively was weaker than Europe, than Great Britain. Even though independence war, America won that war from Great Britain, but it's weaker. So in these early years of the 19th century, America had a war with Great Britain and was actually humiliated somewhat because Washington, D.C. was invaded by the British Army, Navy in 1812. Okay? So that's one example of the United States not ready to challenge Great Britain. And also during the European War of the late 18th century and early part of the 19th century, the Napoleon War, the United States tried to remain neutral. Neutrality is also a American foreign policy tenet. They like to keep it neutral. America today, nobody will consider America as a neutral country. But way back in the early 19th century, neutrality is also very important. That idea of neutrality will carry all the way, even to the 20th century. During World War II, America still thought about neutrality, okay, between Great Britain and Germany. Remember, World War II started in 1939. America actually went to war only after Pearl Harbor, 1941. Okay. In between, America was part of this there were some neutrality acts being passed. So you know the tradition. Isolated, neutral, do not want to interfere in European affairs. And then we have this great Monroe Doctrine, which is very ironic. It's almost like Taiwan is saying something to China today. Okay? Monroe Doctrine is saying if the European countries would not interfere in the Western Hemisphere, means America, United States will not interfere in the European affairs as well. Okay? We have our own hemispheric affairs to deal with. It's almost like Taiwan, today we talk to Beijing, we say, we will not interfere in your domestic affair. For example, Taiwan will not challenge China's Tibetan issues or Xinjiang issues. And then China should never interfere in Taiwan's domestic affair. Okay? So that's Monroe Doctrine by the Secretary of State, Monroe. President Monroe, at the time when he was president in 1823, the Secretary of State at the time is John Quincy Adams, which later will become president. And then James Monroe, the president. And this is from 1825 to 1829. He was the president, but at the time of the doctrine, he was the Secretary of State, 国务卿. Okay. It's like United States didn't have the ability to interfere in the European affairs, but it said, asking the European countries do not interfere in Western Hemisphere. So from that times on, America always considered Latin America, Central America, South America as America's backyard. Okay? So no foreign power should interfere. But that's at least America considers itself more like hemispheric power, the Western Hemisphere. So that's the beginning of the 19th century and late 18th century, internal development. If we use today's words in China, very similar to America, right? Try to consolidate your own power first before you became a power in international arena. So what would the Chinese leadership said back in late 20th century? Before the China's so-called emerging, China's peaceful rise and all that, there was a period of time China said we need to do something. I don't even know how to translate that. Okay, 韬光养晦. 养晦. Okay. First of all, how do we write that 韬? I don't know how to write 韬. I know there is something here. Okay, but where do we add something? 韬. Okay, I know 光, no problem. And 养, I know that. 会, is this 会? Every day? Okay. What is this? How do we write it? 韦小宝的韦 like this. Okay, so what does that mean really? Means almost like keep a low profile, just trying to strengthen yourself. Okay, I think that was America in the beginning of the 19th century, because they know they will not match to Great Britain. They will not even match to France at the time. Okay, keeping a low profile. But America was able, throughout 19th century, to expand. Western expansion, original 13 states, right? Moving further west to the Midwest, and then gradually to the west. On the way, of course, you have to remove some of the Indians, pushing them or put them into reservation. But also, throughout history, America expand by defeating Mexico, annexing Texas, bought Florida from Spain, and then bought some territory from Great Britain. So by the end of 19th century, American Western expansion finished. Okay, America became a Pacific power as well. So throughout 19th century, you have this Western expansion. Okay, no need to go to deal with Europe, just consolidating internally in America continent. Okay, making sure, America build railroads and continue to move westward. So here, America does have some kind of, I think, burden. Some people call white man's burden, but some people call this manifest destiny. It's like knowing America is going to become powerful. Knowing maybe this is something as a fate. America, with all the resources, will one day be a superpower. So that's what people call manifest destiny. Destined, or there is a new word today in the 20th century, people call it's a name of a book, Bound to Lead. Okay. Now, how do we translate that? Bound to lead. People translate as this. 势必领导. Okay. Bound to lead. It's almost like looking at a entertainer with great talent, say, bound to be famous. Or right now people look at China and say, bound to rise. Okay, bound to lead. Okay, that's almost like the manifest destiny here. And America also developed a frontier mentality, always want to explore the new world. And that's how America has become stronger, with every new frontier. The new frontier, Obama's speech also talk about different kind of frontier. Frontier used to be like Kentucky is frontier, right? And Andrew Jackson at the time, Tennessee frontier, and then moved to Illinois, moved to the Plain States, moved to the West Coast. They are all frontier. And then Alaska is also, the nickname of Alaska is called the last frontier. Now, then later in the 20th century, where do they go? They go to the moon. They say moon is the frontier, the last frontier. Now people are talking about Mars. So you always have something to strive for. Obama, in his speech, talked about different kinds of frontier. What kind of frontier? Frontier of equal opportunity, frontier of racial harmony, frontier of affirmative action, frontier of social welfare. Frontier maybe today of what? National health care being a new frontier. Okay? So always exploring. So that's the 19th century, feeling that this is a country on the rise, but still do not want that rise to be constrained by Great Britain or by Europe. Okay, America very careful not to get involved, cultivating good relation with Great Britain. They do have some conflict, but they try to keep a good relation. Similar to China. China said, we don't want to fight a war against the United States right now over Taiwan because we are not ready yet. Okay, America back in the 19th century, the same thing. Great Britain is the superpower. America is the rising power and does not want to challenge that. So Pacific shift, finally from Atlantic into Pacific after you became a bi-coastal power. Okay? And America does not want to be involved in colonization or being an imperialist power because it doesn't think that it can challenge all the other powers. So back in the late 19th century, if you look at America, there were a lot of voices against expansion. Saying expansion is here, fine. But then people also moved to Hawaii, right, in the late 19th century. Also moved to Alaska as well. And finally, the war that decided America not going to be just a continental power, but going to be an imperialistic power having colony was the War of 1898. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, what was the War of 1898? 郑君哲有在吗？吴凯 Yeah. Do you know this war? 1898. Yeah, this is where America came to Asia and also colonized our southern neighbor. Which country is our southern neighbor? Indonesia? The Philippines first, okay, yeah. Also Indonesia. The Philippines, okay, which war? America came to Asia, and Philippines became American colony. So, first of all, Philippines used to belong to which country? Before America. Japan? No, that's they occupied during World War II. Okay, I think Japan acquired Taiwan, but I don't think they moved to the Philippines. Well, which language do they use? The Philippines. Not English is America, but before that, America is not a Catholic country. We know the Philippines has a lot of Catholics, right? Taiwan's Catholic Church have been saved by our Filipino workers. Otherwise, we do not have enough people attending the Catholic Church in Taiwan. And then suddenly we have all the people coming from Philippines and attending church. So they are Catholic. A lot of Catholics in Philippines. So which country is the representative of Catholic powers in Europe? Spain. Okay, so America fought a war against Spain. Okay, Spain was powerful back in 16th century, maybe early part of 17th century. But I'm sorry, after that, just continued to decline. So America, come on, pick someone your size. Okay, they pick a declining, very weakened Spain back in 1898 and fought a war. And after that war, they acquired few things. One is the Philippines. One is what? Guam, and what else? They also allow Cuba to become independent from Spain, and which they, have a greater interest in Cuba. Very powerful and influential. And also, America moved from there into Latin America, and later will try to get the independence of Panama from Colombia. And America got the right to build the Panama Canal. So in the late 19th century and beginning of 20th century, America has become an imperialist power. Okay? But still, America never pick on someone your size. So America will not challenge Europe, not challenging Great Britain or Germany. Right? America was basically pick on the declining Spain. But that's late 19th century. So we have some few things we need. By the second decade of the 20th century, okay, Europe was involved in war. Again, America has a tendency to say, no, we don't want to get involved. So World War I started which year? In 1914, right? America went to war which year? 1918. Okay, and then 1919, the war ended. It's like, oh, why were you showing up so late? Okay, interesting. 1916, America had an election, right? Woodrow Wilson was running for re-election, and the campaign slogan was, "He kept us out of war." That's the reason he won the election. Okay, he kept us out of war. America was not trying to involve because America knew Germany and Great Britain fighting, Germany and France were fighting, and America has a lot of immigrants from both Germany and Great Britain, the descendants. So German American, British American, you don't want to be involved in that. Okay, so we kind of know this neutrality, this isolation was so much there. But by 1918, America has decided that it needs to be involved to support Great Britain and France. So 1980, America went into the European theater, we call, okay, of warfare, and immediately changed the balance. Okay, and within half a year, the European warfare battle basically decided, and a year later, Germany signed, we call the armistice, not surrender, armistice. So ending the World War I. Okay, after ending World War I, Woodrow Wilson promoted the League of Nations idea, right? America saying, hey, we are the big boys now. We would like to promote something. And then you look at the European countries, they're all big powers. They say, hey, we love this tradition idea of balance of power. So all the colonies were transferring to other countries instead of allowing them to become independent. Like America will think, this war will end. Allow the independence of the former colony, or we call self-determination. Right? This is America's idea of self-determination. And remember, in Chinese history, the Chinese were so happy to hear Woodrow Wilson's idea of self-determination and thinking what would happen. The Qingdao area, after Germany being defeated, will what? Will return to China, right? But what happened? Was taken over by Japan. So that caused, by the way, what do we call the May 4th movement in China, right? So this self-determination, Woodrow Wilson didn't have all the secret diplomacy like the powers before. So he had a big problem promoting the idea. No one will accept. So the League of Nations was finally established, but United States itself, the Senate said, no, going back to isolationism. We don't want to deal with the outside world. It's so messy. It's not our ability. Today, I think some people will still look at America saying, Americans are so naive. They cannot deal with the sophistication of the Europeans. The Europeans are seasoned diplomats. They know how to give and take. America just sometimes try to impose their own view on others. And they don't know why they are not welcome. Okay? So this is the idea that some Americans will say, okay, since people do not necessarily identify with our idea, we will go back to isolationism. So after World War I, after the League of Nations, which America helped to establish, and America itself would not be able to join. Isn't that ironic? Okay, Woodrow Wilson's idea of League of Nations established, Great Britain, France, Japan, Italy, all those powers were involved, and then at the end, one of the major powers, United States, was not a member, okay, of the League of Nations. So early part of 20th, you have this competing value, internationalism versus isolationism, continue on. And World War II came, okay, in 1939. When did Americans join the Allies? 1941, only when America was attacked by Japanese. Otherwise, America was not technically at war with both Germany or Japan or adding Italy. So throughout 1930s, America was passing Neutrality Act, saying, no, we do not want to be involved. America is a little bit like the Switzerland or Austria or Scandinavian countries like Sweden or even Belgium. They said, no, we're a neutral country. We're not involved. Okay? Ignoring the fact America has become a superpower, especially during the war, World War I was happening in European continent. World War II, Great Britain suffered a lot. America has never been invaded, or except the Hawaii, right? If you watch the movie Pearl Harbor, but United States, continental United States was fine. So this is the first part of the United Nations being set up. This time, America said, we need to be involved. We are the superpower now. We cannot relinquish or give up our responsibility. You're the big man. Take up the responsibility. Otherwise, there will be recurring violence in international arena. So what do we call this? Okay, later, I think there is a term I like to use here. This term, reluctant sheriff. Okay? What do we mean by reluctant sheriff? 何子怡. Yeah. What do you understand reluctant? What is a reluctant? Like you have a blind date, right? And someone said, oh, this is a fabulous girl. You have to go, And then you find, oh, not the same as the picture I saw. But I already promised I will go out with her. Okay, so let's go. That's reluctant, huh? 心不甘，情不愿. Sheriff, you understand sheriff? What is a sheriff? Sheriff is the guy with the star. Marshal, sheriff. What is a sheriff? In Western movie, they arrest the bad guy. What do we call? 警长. right? The guy with the star, right? Put someone behind the bar. That's the sheriff. So America said, no, we do not want to be the guy to police the streets with all those bad boys around. But, you know, we're superpower. So kind of reluctant, but I don't like it, but I have to do it. You know, someone said, you know, this is a job, someone has to do it. Okay, so America has to take up the responsibility. So that's why we call reluctant sheriff. Okay. So after World War II, I think America recognized that, but also America after World War II faced a big problem, a challenge we call the Cold War. The Cold War between the United States and Soviet Union, and the Cold War of communism versus capitalism, authoritarianism versus democracy. Okay. But Cold War from 1945 almost, or let's say we put it in 1946 or 48. Some people will say that's when the Cold War started, right after World War II. Soviet Union and United States were involved in Cold War. And then until 1990, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, and also the fall of the Berlin Wall. Remember that one? Okay, a few weeks ago, 20th anniversary. So the Cold War ended in 1990. But some people said, why do we call it a Cold War? Gosh, we have a long peace between United States, you know, in the international arena. I mean, there was no World War I, World War II, after World War, no, there's no World War III, right? Or when United States and Soviet Union, both superpower. So it's a long peace. And then people said, maybe this is good, this bipolarity, two poles of powers. Not Polish people, okay, two poles. But we also call Polish people Poles. 两极啊，叫波兰人是不是也很极端 ？I'm not sure. But pole, okay, two poles. So we have this bipolarity. People say kind of like really stable. Two sides having, you know, each other. You have a kind of like a balance of terror. Why? Because both sides have what? Nuclear weapons. Both sides have nuclear weapons, and both sides do not want to use the nuclear weapons because both sides have, we call, not only first strike capability, but also what? Second strike capability. Okay. Second strike means if I fire my nuclear missile and destroy you, but somehow you just have ability, capacity of ability to fight something back. So if you have that capability, then I will not use it. Okay? If you don't, obviously, I will have more liberty to use my weapons. Okay? It's almost like if you want to attack someone, but you know they also carry weapons. If you make sure you cannot wipe out all the weapons, you probably will not try to attack. So we have this deterrence. Okay, deterrence means somehow you prevent someone from using force. Okay, deter. Okay. Massive retaliation means if you actually attack, the retaliation will be very substantial. You know, might be a nuclear retaliation. And balance of terror. Okay, so from 1945 to 1990, some people, I'm not, you know, maybe you go back and ask your parents. At least in Taiwan, I don't think we worry about that as much. But you will find, especially in the 70s, you have American schoolgirls writing to their president saying, oh, you know, do not involve, you know, this arms race with Soviet Union. There's this danger of the war will come to an end when nuclear war broke out. Okay. And Oh, by the way, that's also always the, like a Miss Universe question, contest. They would say, do you have any expectation? Oh, we hope, we wish that the world will be, peace. There will be no nuclear war. Okay, that would be a very safe answer. Something. So that was the time. Okay, today I don't think we worry that as much. Even though we have the same stockpile of nuclear weapons all over, probably more than before, and more widespread than before. But how many people are sitting there and then could not sleep, saying there might be a nuclear war? Okay, and when you're dating, you say, I cannot date. Maybe there will be a nuclear war. Why do I have to invest, all this, my passion, my feeling, toward this? Maybe the war will come tomorrow, right? I don't think we're worrying that. So that was over. But this dominate the first few decades after World War II. And also the strategy of containment. Okay, United States think the spread of communism is a big problem. So you have to contain communism. Contain means 围堵, to contain communism. So under this policy, America will try to have we call collective security. With a lot of countries. So you have NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. You have CETO, the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. America have bilateral relation with, security, mutual security pact with Korea, with Thailand, with Philippines, and with Japan. Okay, even long time ago with Taiwan. Okay, so Taiwan, we had a bilateral mutual security treaty with the United States from 1955 until 1979. So that's part of the containment. Means America will try to contain communism from Europe. Eastern Europe became communist. You want to prevent communism taking over the West. You want to prevent communism from China taking over Korea, Japan, or Southeast Asia. So we have a containment policy for a long time in the 1960s, 70s, and America somehow in the 70s just changed. Okay, originally containment of communism, fighting against Soviet Union, but then America found out in 1970 or 60 that China and Russian and Soviet unions do not get along. So America, in order to balance the threat from Soviet Union, began to take China into to its side. So we have this China card. Okay, 中国牌. Okay. They are playing. So China first, in the 1970s, became part of the United Nations, replacing Taiwan, and then in 1979, it changed, switched the diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing. So that happened, okay, when America tried to deal with Soviet Union, and after the, 1990, Soviet Union collapsed. So United States became, this bipolarity, people said for a while might be multipolarity, but America was the superpower, so it's a unipolarity, one pole, one country. Okay, so far, any question on all these terms? Because this will be, mostly the background material for you to understand why Obama needs to change. And we also have, in the 1990s, America began with the collapse of the Soviet Union, America is like, where in Taiwan we have a proverb, or we have an idiom, I think we call, 什么拔剑事茫茫，什么拔剑环顾事茫茫。Like you couldn't find your enemy. You feel lonely. Okay, I think America feel lonely after 1990. Like, where is my enemy? No enemy? People gone? So the first one would be what? Which country? America said, oh, this one is going to challenge America. Was Japan. Because Japan has been, there were so many books on Japan back in 1980s. Japan almost wiped out, Japanese imports of automobile in America, energy efficient. So America was buying all the big car before, and suddenly everybody is buying the Japanese car. And Japanese, all the electronic goods, just flooded American market and enjoy a huge trade surplus with the United States. There were books called Japan as Number One. Okay, books about Japan, how Japan would dominate the Americans. So they were so nervous about the rise of Japan in 1980s. But then, in the early 1990s, what happened to Japan? Bubble economy, burst, and suddenly Japan, economy declined. America said, "Oh, another one lying down. So where is my enemy? Where is my foe? I need to find someone." Okay, then China, right? So they finally find China, and then so for a while, America was dealing with first, Soviet Union, and then Japan, and then China, but then after the 21st century, America began to, especially after the terrorist attack, so the target changed and moved. So this is where America has a big problem in the 1990s. They said, China is on the rise, it's a problem, but what kind of leverage do we have to deal with China? The leverage against Japan is what? What can American do against Japan? With the rise of Japan. First of all, Japan is your security ally. You have military base in Japan. You say, okay, then we withdraw our troops from Japan. Let you take care of your own defense. Japanese say, thank you. Even if we want it, I think the neighboring country would be so nervous. Oh, Japan rearmed, right? So they rather have American bases in Japan. Kind of like, protecting Japan. No, protecting Japan from becoming a militarist power. Okay, so that's one. But also, when you enjoy trade surplus, what can you do? Saying, we are going to close our market for Japanese export. Okay, so that's the leverage Japanese can have. The same kind of leverage, America just basically, we have a big consumer. We waste a lot of things. We know that. But, because of the wastefulness of American consumer, America can always use the market as a leverage. 就是用来当什么？这中文叫杠杆，或者说条件、讨价还价的筹码。Okay. So what did they do during the 1990s? They said, China, I don't know whether I should give you MFN. What is MFN? Okay. MFN is we call most favored nation status. Most favored nation. What does that mean? Most favored nations. Okay. Li Zichuan. What do we mean by most favored nations? Well, remember back in 19th century, when the superpower came to China, they signed all this unequal treaty. They always want the most favored nation. Do you remember all those treaties, unequal treaties, the Qing dynasty signed? Like after the Opium War. You know Opium War? Okay. What treaty did we sign after the Opium War? Treaty of Dongjing? No. 北京还是南京还是西京 I don't think, do we have a 西京 Okay, no, we don't. Okay. 南京还是北京 After the Opium War. 鸦片战争之后我们签了哪一个条约 Okay, 南京 right? And in Nanjing, later, the Americans also signed a 望厦条约 okay, with China. So whatever we give it to Great Britain, America said we have the same thing. That's what we call most favored nation. Whatever preference, privilege you provide for a country, I can also have the same privilege. So is it most favored? No. This idea of most favored nation is almost like, can you say, you are my most favored girlfriend. Whenever my other girlfriend have, I will give the same to you. You would, if I took my girlfriend to this particular trip to Bali, and you will also have it. But I'm not going to upgrade you to go to, let's say, what would be another one? Okay, more expensive than Bali. Where is it? Cookie Island, probably the same. 哪里更棒一点? Okay, or a trip to somewhere, to Europe, okay. Then that girl will be most favored. But here is saying, wherever other girlfriends I have the same kind of thing, I mean, whatever they have, you can have the same thing. That's not most favored. So this is what we call least discrimination. So you will not be discriminated. Wherever I give to other countries, you can have the same thing. So, example, if I give other country 5% tariff, you remember the word tariff? Tax, right? On imports, I will not charge you more than that. That's most favored. Okay? Most favored means no discrimination. But America has used that most favored nation status to give it to China, like annually, you need to renew. Like, let's see how our relations are going. Not so good. Maybe we should not have this. Should we renew our most favored nation status for you? Do you deserve it? No. Then we need to, as a weapon, okay, to deal with China throughout 1990s until finally, China had and America had we call a normal trade relations. So China became a most favored nation, which is not means China will not be discriminated. Okay, I can tell you most countries in the world are most favored nations of the United States. Who are not? Cuba. Okay, which countries are not? Maybe Iran. Okay, those are during the Cold War. The Soviet Union, obviously, they are not. Okay, otherwise, every other country is a most favored nation. So is that a big problem here with that term? Most favored means you are not discriminated. That's it. Okay, not you are most favored. You're just like the others. Okay, so they used that against China throughout 1990s as a weapons, as a leverage. Okay, to deal with China. So America, at the time, some people said, with the rise of Japan, and then later with China, America has a big question is whether it has declined, or some people say America will be in a process of revival. So we will take a break here and look at what happened with all these terms. And then it will be easier for you to follow Obama's book, because his book is very consistent on his worldview, very similar to his view on American politics. You need to treat others as equal. You need to, you do not dominate, the other's view. Okay, let's take a break. Some of the other terms here. With the rise of China, we talk about the leverage of MFN, the most favored nation status, but there's always a debate about how does United States deal with China. Okay, the Soviet Union disappeared. You used to have deterrence or containment, but right now, do you still want to contain China? So people begin to use the term engagement. You're going to talk to China. You're going to be involved with China, and that's the more important thing. Okay, you can correct some of them. Okay, I'll try this one. Okay. So engagement is talk to China, engage China, not isolating China. But other people say, but China is different from the United States. It's not a traditional ally. Doesn't have the democratic system. Doesn't share the same value. So people say, well, we want to contain, but at the same time, we want to engage. So there's a new term called congagement. Contain and engage. That's during the Bush administration. And now I think people are talking about a different view, saying, engagement. Okay? And Obama said, very much like he talked about, earlier, Republicans, people who have different views. He said, I will not impose my view on the Republicans. I will try to respect their views, but just have a healthy debate. The same thing here in international relations. United States will tell China, right, like Obama did when he visited China. He said, we have different standards of human rights. We want you to at least make the internet more available and open to the publics. But we are not going to superimpose our value on you. So this is a consistency in his book. Domestically, he's trying to reach out to the red states, to the conservative, to the Republicans. Then again, in foreign policy, he said, we are different, but I'm going to reach out to you. So I think we're going back to engagement, not going to contain China. Especially, how do you contain someone who controls so much of your, what do we call this, national debt, the money. China controls a lot of the American money. So engagement is back. And America almost like talking about not bipolarity, but almost like two world leaders, G2, the giant two, China and United States. So how do we say that? It's almost like a sheriff and his deputy. 警长跟副警长, right? America is like, a lot of times in Western movie, you have a sheriff, and then what do you find out that deputy sheriff is doing? Usually get drunk, not doing a lot of things. 你们去看那个美国西部片，那个副警长通常不晓得在干嘛 right? So the sheriff is saying, hey, you're part of this peacekeeping, maintaining the order, get active, take responsibility. But on the other hand, we know in all kinds of organizations, the guy who's going to take away the position of the sheriff might be the deputy sheriff. The vice president, Chen Shui-bian always worry about Annette Lu, like anytime she is trying to, we call it dethrone, dethrone 叫什么篡位 Okay, so China also worry about, America also worry about China becoming, a new power. So that's the kind of relations we have. Here, I have another term here, end of history. in 1980s, late 80s, a Japanese American, Fukuyama, Francis Fukuyama, come up with the term saying, Soviet Union collapsed. What does that mean? Communism lost. Capitalism won. Democracy won. You have all countries becoming more democratic. So it's the end of history. Why? History has always been struggles between two opposing values. And by 1990, America has won. No more enemy. Communism being defeated. Authoritarianism is discarded. Now it's democracy and capitalism. That was the end of history. No more, competing values. But 20 years later now, people say, wait a second, look at these capitalist economies. The more capitalist you are, the more trouble you have, right? Like the financial tsunami of last year. And then somehow when the government still control part of the economy, like India, like China, are doing better. So no longer this the end of history debate. I think we need to bring it up again, especially in the third world, right? America used to say every country should follow the American model and doing the kind of things Americans want them to do. What happened to all the... Suddenly, both disappear. Both of my markers. Where happened to my markers? After one break. Oh, here. Okay. So you have it's difficult to find English word with here, by Beijing. Okay. So Washington consensus versus Beijing consensus. What is that? Okay. This is the Americans' view that most of the world should follow the American recommendation of developing its economy. So there is a consensus. If you want to borrow money, first, you need to open up your market. You need to stop the subsidies. You need to follow certain programs. Otherwise, you cannot borrow any money from the international community, like IMF, World Bank. They have some conditions. We call the Washington Consensus. This is what you need to do. And China said, no. Well, we can loan you money. We have a different view of development. And today, there are a lot of countries taking the Beijing's assistance, economic assistance, and develop in a different way. So United States is being challenged right now. So this is the end of history. Maybe need to revisit it. We need to revisit this idea that America already won. Okay? Now, most of you heard of this Britannica. Have you heard of Britannica? Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. Ever heard of that? 大英百科全书，有听过吧? Encyclopedia. I know. Now you only heard of Wikipedia. Okay, but we used to have Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay? I still have the real copy, not electronic. Okay, I still have the real copy of Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. But Britannica just Latin word for Great Britain. What is Pax? P-A-X. In Latin? Okay, this word actually started, Pax Britannica, Pax America, Pax Sinica, Pax Romana. What is Romana? Roman. So what is Pax? peace of Roman, okay, Roman peace, British peace, American peace, Chinese peace. Okay, what does that mean? Way back in the 1st, 2nd century BC, Rome was the dominant power in the Mediterranean area. That one dominant power provides stability and peace for the world. So you have a peace under Roman leadership. In the 17th, 18th, and especially in the 19th century, okay, 19th century, from 1814 or 1815, Napoleon was defeated in 1815. And then 1914, World War I broke out. So from 1815 to 1914, 99 years, no major conflict in Europe because you have a superpower called Great Britain. Great Britain provide a peace. So British peace, leadership. Okay. And then the 20th century is the American, okay, Pax America. And so who knows, maybe the 21st century might be Pax Sinica. Okay, Sinica, you know Sinica, that's China. Sino-Japanese War, Sino, S-I-N-O. 什么？中日战争啊。Some of you will go to work for Academia Sinica. 什么？中研院，中央研究院 Academia Sinica. Okay, so Sinica is China. So maybe China would say, oh, look, we're talking about what? 和谐社会，什么和睦关系，三和，好多和，我也不知道和平发展。OK， 本来是说 China is what 和平崛起，你说哦崛起 too threatening， so they don't use that word anymore. They say 和平发展。Okay, so maybe China will provide some kind of peace. So that's Pax. But at least right now, America still has this idea. It is the leader of the world providing peace. But going back to China, back in 1970, became a member of the United Nations, and then became a member of, the most international organization. And China said, wait a second, this international organization has been dominated by the superpowers. China is one of them, so they knew. And they want a democratization of international organization. Means weaker countries can have more voices. Okay, America still the most powerful country, but America should look at the international organization and say there are other voices have to be respected. Just like domestic politics. In international relations, there are weaker countries. The voices need to be respected. Pluralization of international relations means different values. You cannot just superimpose Americans' democratic capitalist value. You have to accept the reality of what? Islam. The reality of what? China. What do we call China's model? China, people say China is not a China is very capitalistic, right? But China doesn't call itself a capitalist society. But is it socialist? Not really, but what do we call China? China said socialism with Chinese characteristics. 具有中国特色的社会主义. Okay, which means translate 资本主义. But you cannot say it's a capitalism. Capitalist, like China used to accuse people of being a capitalist roader. 什么是 roader? R-O-A-D-E-R. Road, 路，所以 capitalist roader 叫走资派。Okay? You walk the path of the capitalism. That's bad. So, but now you're doing capitalism. No. We are not, practicing capitalist value. We are socialist, but with Chinese characteristics. Okay. So later, what would they say? They would say, now we are having democracy, but with Chinese characteristics. 具有中国特色的民主，就是不能够随便发表言论。That's 具有中国特色。Okay, so you can also talk about that. But this is different voices. Obama probably would have to. America have to recognize there is a pluralization of international relations, different voices, different groups. Even Europeans are not going to be the most reliable ally of the United States, right? Traditionally, America would say, we protect Europe from the threat of Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. And European countries are not very grateful now. You know, they support the United States in the first Persian Gulf War. They supported the United States in fighting Afghanistan, but they didn't support the United States, Bush, in moving or declaring war against Iraq. Americans so hurt. How do they accuse Europe? France and Germany. America said, you are the old Europe. You know, you are passé, 过去式, right? The new Europe, Spain, Portugal, Poland, Denmark, they are supporting the United States. They are our new friends. Okay, of course, America always have another friend called Great Britain, right? They support. So America has to respect the different value of European countries, Germany and France, not always, you know, going to stand with you. That's what we call pluralistic development of international relations. Also, nowadays, what do we have? We have all this, the new countries like powerful country like Brazil, countries like India, the emerging, you know, market, also with great energy resources, all those are. So we have a different international community now. And peace dividend was way back in the 1990s when the Cold War was ended. What happened? Americans said, oh, we spent so much money on weapons, right? And suddenly the enemy is gone. So why do we keep all these weapons? Why don't we just sell those weapons, or, you know, using the money we spend on defense for education, for economy, so everybody will benefit? They call peace dividend, 和平红利. Don't you think we should also ask our government right now, saying, oh, we have cross-strait peace, 两岸现在和平了, so we don't have to buy weapons. Hey, give us some money back. You know, why are we buying all those expensive weapons? Right? Peace dividend. You know, if we have peace. And Chinese government can also, Chinese people can also challenge their government, say, hey, Ma Ying-jeou say no unification, no independence, no war, right? 三不，不统，不独，不武. So Taiwan, there is no possibility for Taiwan to become independent. Let's get rid of all the missile, and then, you know, spend all those money on other things, on infrastructure, on education. So that's what we call peace dividend. If you have peace, maybe less money to spend. So some people say, oh, those people who produce weapons, they love to create tension so they can sell weapons. 所以有人说战争都是军火商制造出来。Otherwise, you know, I mean, who are going to buy the weapons? So you understand that. Imperial overstretch. This is way back in the history, from Roman to Great Britain to United States. People are saying, why will empire decline? Why do they decline? They said the reason they decline is when they overlook or ignore the hard reality that your economy cannot support your foreign policy initiative. Taiwan back in 1990 when we have money flooding and, cover our feet, right? That's how we said it. 前烟角木嘛, right? So we have a lot of idea to do a lot of things. But then our economy cannot afford all this. But we're still trying to do the same thing, then we will have decline. Okay? America may be very powerful, but the economy is not doing well, cannot afford to fight a war in Afghanistan, cannot afford to fight a war in Iran or Iraq. And so this is what we call overstretch. Now, how many of you know what do you mean by overstretch? Have you overstretched yourself sometimes? What do you mean by overstretch? Like, okay, you think you're young, right? So you sleep only 2 hours a day. Say, 萧强说他只睡1钟头。萧强是不是说他只睡1个钟头？是谁只睡1个钟头？ I don't think 萧强 is not a young person, okay? But some of you, okay, can do a lot of things when you are young, okay? But you know you cannot overstretch yourself, 过度延伸. If you, don't have enough sleep, then you're going to, your health is going to decline. Okay? I remember when I was playing basketball in Taiwan, when I first came back to Taiwan, we played with some younger professors, okay? And I said, wait a second, we both jump up for a rebound. How come I fall first? Why he is still in the air? Okay, the age difference, huh? So 10 years older, you drop, this, what we call the Newton, theory probably works, huh? So I drop first, and that's how you don't defy. America do not have that kind of resources now. So there is a imperial overstretch. Roman did that same thing. Roman expand, from a Mediterranean to Middle East to Europe to North Africa, and eventually decline. Great Britain have so many colonies, right? From Caribbean to Pacific, to Africa, to South Asia, to Southeast Asia, overstretch. You cannot supply. The economy cannot support your military adventure. So that's why America might have a problem here with this imperial overstretch. I think the same thing can be said about Taiwan. I don't think we are imperial, but we did have an overstretch after 1990, and when our economy was doing fine. And some people argue that this unipolar system, one superpower, is actually good. Why? Because there is hegemon. Okay, what is a hegemon? Hegemon means power, superpower, 霸权. Okay, hegemon. So hegemony, 霸权, not the power, but the power. How do we distinguish 霸权 from the country to the 霸权 from that power? 中文怎么分？美国是霸权，美国的霸权。我们可不可以写一个是国民，一个是状态 Okay, so hegemony, right? But at least in English, it's hegemon and hegemony. Okay. But hegemonic stability means when you have like a superpower, then the international community actually said, we have someone who make up the rule, who know what to do. Any problem, we will look up to this hegemon, and it will provide stability. 有点像 look like a mafia society. You need a boss, right? Boss will provide stability. When the boss, getting old and died, what happened? Ooh, a mess. Everybody was fighting. 黑社会也是一样嘛。如果没一个 大佬在那边制衡，一死掉，马上这个什么，我们叫什么战国群雄 ，right? So everyone is competing for supremacy. So hegemonic stability. Some people say the hegemon, because it's powerful, can design a system that will work and with its supervision. So 19th century, Great Britain, Pax Britannica is because of Great Britain as the hegemon. Okay? Now we have America in decline. So people worry about the world will become less stable. And in the late second half of the 20th century, with the development of nuclear arms, okay, I mentioned earlier about people worry about the day after. I think that's the word, the term people use, the day after. 什么明天过后 the day after tomorrow. I don't think they said the day after tomorrow. They said the day after. It's like, what will happen if there is a bomb? Okay. For example, in the United States, they said, in case of a nuclear war, they said, these are the things you need to bring with you and go to a bunker. Bunker 像防空洞的地下, right? You need to, try to avoid the proliferation of all this nuclear material from spreading to you will be dangerous. They said, there's a little book, for you to follow. Bring your own document. Like in Taiwan, what do we need to bring with us? Of course, ID card, right? What else? Health insurance. 健保卡，身份证、健保卡。What else? 手机。学生证还有用吗 ？OK， 学生证、手机还有什么？还有 iPad 啊。I don't know what else. I mean, you bring some, 还有那个救护包 right? But they said two things you should not bring. One is alcohol. The other one is drugs. But I think if it's the end of the world, those are two most important things to have. Don't you think? They said, don't bring drugs. Come on. Drug is the only thing that you can rely on, if there's a nuclear weapon, nuclear war. Or alcohol, you get your drunk. I mean, that's better, right? But that's the time they talk about the danger of nuclear war. So we have, especially we call it nuclear proliferation everywhere. Just today, yesterday, Iran, Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, said, oh, you don't like our nuclear program, then we will build another 10 facilities to process, to enrich uranium, 去浓缩那个铀, right? 10 facilities. So that's what we call nuclear proliferation, 核子扩散. That's the danger. Every country wants to have a nuclear weapon. It's just some kind of social status. Almost like when Michael Jordan was playing basketball, every boys need to have a pair of Air Jordan, sneakers. So if nuclear weapon is so popular, everybody want to have something. So what are the countries that are having them right now? The nuclear club. Okay, nuclear club. 核子俱乐部. Right? Come on. Give me the name of the countries. 庄子成在吗？不在。郑立伟。Yeah. Can you give me the name of some countries that have nuclear weapons? Which countries in the world have nuclear weapons? China, okay. China, one, okay. France, okay, second. India, third one. Pakistan, we don't know yet, okay. But the declare one, okay, that we are nuclear powers. India, China, France. UK, United States. Okay, 5. We need one more. Russia. Okay, so that's easy. The nuclear club, right? But we all know more countries are potential nuclear power. Give me some of them. North Korea. Do we know whether North Korea have one? Well, we don't know, but it seems like they are having one. Okay, getting one. What other countries? There is a one everybody think they have, but they never declare. You know, but everybody think they have the capability and they may have one. It's almost like they have not come out of the closet yet. It's in their basement. 藏在地下室，还没有出柜。Which country has not 出柜 yet? Come out of the closet and just acknowledge I am a nuclear power. Israel. Okay, everybody think Israel has nuclear power. You know, with all their scientists, you know, and technology, they probably have, but they can never acknowledge. You know, so we hope one day Israel will 出柜, but we don't know. Okay, and then there are countries like Brazil, which might have. Countries like South Korea, countries like Taiwan, especially Tsinghua University. Okay, so we don't know. Or Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technology, 中科院. What other countries? Pakistan is another one. Iran, right? And then in Africa, Nigeria said, wait a second, it's not fair. Why all the European, the white people, the yellow people, they all have, how come the black people don't have one? Okay, so they said we need to have one, right? And then, you know, you have other countries like Syria, which might be involved, trying to develop. Countries like Iraq, one time, was trying to develop. Libya. So there are a lot of countries are candidates. And then former Soviet republics, like Kazakhstan, Ukraine, they might have some stockpile. We don't know. Okay, so here, these are the one. So we have a lot of weapons everywhere. Nuclear proliferation. Some areas that we don't want nuclear. We don't even want nuclear testing. So we call test ban. You have to sign the test ban treaty. No more test, nuclear tests, like in the Pacific Ocean before. Some of the islands, the French testing their nuclear bombs there. Not anymore. So we have a lot of, we call nuclear-free zones. South America is a typical one. They signed a treaty, said no testing here in Latin America. They also signed a treaty, no testing in Antarctica. Where is Antarctica? 南极. 南极都是陆地嘛. Okay, so no testing here. So there are a lot, but Obama is talking about not just freeze the nuclear weapons, no more proliferation, but he wants to go to reverse the process. We call denuclearization. 去核化 means, hey, after a while, you know, maybe we don't need all this weapon, we can destroy the weapons. This is one problem I always have. You know, I'm not an economist. Sometimes when I see something already finished, you ask me to destroy them. I said, well, I'm not going to produce more, but why do we have to destroy? Like, why do we have to destroy all the pirated copy of CD? 我们为什么要把那些还是可以听嘛 right? Why don't we just listen to them? But we don't produce them anymore. Okay, but that's I think that's capitalism. You destroy them, you create more, right? But this is weapons, denuclearization. And United States is looking with Soviet Unions. They have this talk for a long time. If you look at the late 20th century, 1970, 1980, they have all kinds of talk about reducing weapons. The first one we call the SALT, S-A-L-T. So people say, what is yen? Yen. what is, this is, at the time, okay, people have in America the talk, one is SALT, one is START. Okay. And SALT is about strategic arms limitation talk. 战略武器限制谈判. Okay. And then that talk became a treaty, so it's still SALT, Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty. So they signed, limit. So no more growth, like a ceiling, right? And then in the 80s, they also talk about strategic arms reduction talk, 减低. Okay. So basically try to reduce the number. It's like, now, if you know you have the ability to destroy your opponent with one machine guns and I don't know how many rounds of bullets. Now, do you need to, like, you have one enemy, right? But so do you need 10 machine guns? You said, well, I worry I might miss him. I worry that, with all these bullets shot, that he can still withstand. 他变形金刚吗？不是嘛？ Right? So, but do you, well, because he has 8 machine guns, so I need to have 10. But if there is a confrontation, both of you would die after you shooting one, using one machine guns, right? So, why do we need all that? That's, how they try to talk about reduction, limitation, reduction, and now even trying to get rid of all the nuclear weapons. That day might have come to think about this, but then going back to the old days, don't you think nuclear not proliferation, the balance of terror, nuclear deterrence, because I have a nuclear weapon, you will not attack me, actually we have peace. Okay, so think about all those. And this is also, America began to, in the 1990s and early part, the first decade of the 20th century, especially when Bush was in power, calling other countries rogue states. What is rogue state? 红模仿吗？模仿，红州，rouge. What is rogue state? Rogue is like 流氓国家. Okay. And then you have failed states, 失败国家. Okay. Those countries that become a problem in the international community. United States will call Iran and North Korea as rogue states. United States will call countries like Myanmar, Burma as failed states or rogue states, calling Zimbabwe as failed states. There are a lot of those countries. But Bush also called it the axis of evil. 3 countries being called axis of evil. So which are the 3 countries? 李雄豪、宋维达、古文佳. 3 countries, axis of evil. Cuba? No, not Cuba. At the time, the 3 countries, axis of evil. Iran, Iraq, yeah, Iraq. At the time, 2001, okay. Saddam Hussein. No, not Afghanistan yet. Okay, this is actually before the September 11. Iraq, Iran. Okay, I mean, America always had problem with Iran, right? Because of back in 1979, right? You have big problem. No. Israel, gosh, dear friends, not axis of evil, axis of good. Pakistan is United States ally, especially during the Cold War, when India and Soviet Union is on one side, Pakistan is American friend. Okay. North Korea. So those are the three axes of evil. Okay. So calling them evil, 邪恶轴心, is so evil. Huh? And then, of course, after 2003, which country is no longer considered evil? Iraq. Because Iraq has been liberated by the American. 被和平解放了. Okay? So no more evil. Okay, so then they come up with an outpost of tyranny by, what's her name? Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice. And then a new list of enemy. Like Korea is still there. Oh, thank you, I'm still on the list. Thank you. Iran is still on the list. And Cuba said, hey, we made it to the chart. 我们登上排行榜了. Okay, so Cuba has it. Cuba, and then Zimbabwe, and Myanmar. Myanmar, like a small country, but finally, make a big impression in the international community now, right? 缅甸, 暴政前哨战. Okay, one more called Belarus or Belarusia, right? 白俄罗斯. So those are, so America defying, always try to find some enemies. And now, they think Venezuela is a big problem, but that's only rhetoric. America bought a lot of oil from Venezuela, okay? So this is where I think Obama is trying to change. Don't call people names. Don't call other countries names. You have to deal with them one day or another, right? So America, during the Clinton time, already someone is saying, America should not use hard power to try to dominate the world. You win or you gain respect by your soft power, even your values, your institutions. People will say, yeah, this is great. But more recently, Obama came to power, Hillary Clinton saying, not only soft power, America to be smart. Saying, hey, look at us. We have this democratic system. People say, so what? Okay, that's your system. But smart power means you know where you are good at. You use that power there. So these are the tenets. Okay, basic tenets 就是基本的一些中文该怎么教条？不好听的教条。美国外交的一些基本信念。Okay, so after this, then you can read that chapter from America. The world outside America. Chapter, I think 9. Is it chapter 9? 8? Okay, so then we will be able to talk about that. Okay, so see you next week.